Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the Buccaneers podcast. I'm your host, Tampa Tones. We're joined in by the crew tonight, and we got a special guest as well. We'll bring all of them in shortly. We're here to break down the battle of the Sunshine State. In particular, we got Miami heading to Tampa this weekend. That's always a fun game there. We're also going to talk about the Stefan Gilmore news, some fantasy players to look out for, as you'll learn exactly why we're doing that in a little bit with our guests. We're going to have potential players to look out for as well, score predictions, MVP of the game, what's going on in Miami. They've been struggling a little bit. Obviously, Tua's been out, so that'll probably attribute to some of their struggles, but we'll get into that and all more here on the Buccaneers episode. We're going to be live for about 45 minutes to an hour or so, depending on how we roll. I'm Tampa Tones alongside Bucko the Bruce, Cody G. They're the crew. How the hell are you guys doing tonight?
Happy to be back. I know I missed a couple of the last episodes, but we're here. We're ready. Let's get rocking.
Let's go.
We got special guest Stefan Trosch from Bankster DFS. He writes for them, fantasy football, and he's also a Miami Dolphins guy, so he's going to help talk about them a little bit. He does Arm Chair Quarterback Handicappers show on Sunday. Obviously, I start off with a couple of the guys that show, Mac McGee, my brother Joey, and Bobby the Kid, and then we hand off the reins to Stephen and the boys. So that's always a fun time on Sundays. Stephen, long time no talk. How the hell you doing, my friend?
Man, I'm doing all right. I mean, Dolphins had a little rough showing against Indianapolis last week, but I mean, not getting any easier this week. But I'm still looking forward to the game.
Hey, we got some injuries piling up back there. I know your quarterback's here, but we'll match you our top three cornerbacks down right now, and our top and our starting safeties. So we'll see what happens there. But just tell the people real quick where they can find either Armchair, your Handicappers work, or your DFS Bankster work.
So my banks, my Twitter is Texas Trosch, Trosch. I do MLB and NBA and a little bit of NFL for Bankster DFS. I believe Tones tagged them in that, like in the post earlier, and then Armchair Quarterbacks on YouTube.
Perfect. So it's going to be a fun episode. We're looking forward to breaking down the game with you and talking some fantasy with you as well. So, fellas, obviously, before we get into the game, Stefan Gilmore news broke today. We'll just get that out of the way quick. There's been rumors on the Twitter, actually, when we had J.C. Allen on the show a couple weeks back. Now, 3 weeks back, I want to say J.C. Allen, a good friend of the show's from the Pewter Report. He kind of floated around the idea to Cody and I that, not saying it's possible, but Stefan Gilmore, if the Bucs wanted to make a trade for a cornerback, maybe you target Gilmore, blah, blah, blah. Bucko and Cody have mentioned Gilmore in the group chat. Others have as well. All of a sudden today, it's funny because we were talking about it yesterday and last night, and then all of a sudden this morning he gets released, and we thought it was a gift-wrapped package for the Bucs. Obviously went to the division rival Panthers, who have added their third cornerback in the past couple weeks. Crew, we'll start with you before we get Steven's opinion. Thoughts on the Gilmore ended up in the NFC South?
Me personally, I'm actually glad he went to Carolina versus going to Green Bay and New Orleans, Buffalo, Kansas City, one of those teams, making them that much better. While Carolina's good, they've been a surprise so far. They're not Super Bowl contender level yet, so him going there doesn't hurt us like it would going to one of those other teams. But I'm quite pissed we didn't get him, and I understand we didn't have the ability to trade for him because we could not cover that cap number. And from what I read, he's not wanting to restructure. He's in fact wanting to get a new deal north of 15, and there was no way we could do that. So it's obvious championship wasn't his motive; it was money, and in that case, we're going to lose every time because we're kind of broke.
Yeah, Cody, what say you? And what's up to Donnie Pepin? Donnie, how you doing? He's checking in, saying what's up. Hope you're having a great evening.
I agree with Bucko. I mean, it'd suck if they had gone to, say, Green Bay. We see them in the NFC Championship game again. Like in Carolina, I agree with Bucko. They're building an awesome defense for sure. That's a team on the rise, but they're not, in my eyes, a legit contender for probably realistically 2 more years, I would say, but definitely headed in the right direction. It's going to be a fun team to watch. Awesome defense, but yeah, I mean, I would have liked for him to come here too, but just it wouldn't work.
Yeah, I mean, Sherman was our guy. You guys are probably the two biggest advocates I knew, and we got our guys, so we'll be happy with that. Steven, any thoughts on Stefan Gilmore leaving your division? You finally get him out of your division. He was in Buffalo. He was in New England. Now he's on his way out, so you must be pretty happy about that.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be interesting to see what version of Stefan Gilmore we get this year. I mean, the past couple of years, I mean, like whether it was just the injuries, he really hasn't looked like the All-Pro he was a few years back. So, I mean, it'll be definitely nice to get him out of the division, but still interesting to see if he's going to be that same player.
Yeah, I thought the same thing. Coming off a quad this year, and I think he had another soft tissue issue the year before. But 2 years ago, he was the defensive player of the year. So, how far away from that is he? Nobody knows at this point. But shout out to Carolina. They're out there. They're fucking trying. They go out there. They trade for first round pick guy C.J. Henderson. Now they're going out and trading. Tim Peanuts 2023 6th round pick amounts to, I think, negative points in the point system. So, shout out to them for being aggressive and going to get some guys.
Yeah, definitely shout out to them. Like you said, they got multiple guys, not just one guy. I agree with you as well, Steven. I'm interested to see what he could do coming back from the quad injury. That'll be something that obviously could perhaps hinder him as a cornerback. I know being traded, he has to wait the full length of the PUP list week 6 to come off that PUP list. I know they said if he got released and signed right away, he could perhaps suit up as soon as this week. Not that would be possible, but then again, we've seen it with Richard Sherman, and he damn near played every snap for the Buccaneers. So anything is possible in the NFL nowadays. But he's going to Carolina. We'll kind of leak it into fantasy. Do you see, Steven, we'll start with you. Do you see that impacting any of the NFC South wide receivers' fantasy potential, particularly Tampa's?
I mean, not Tampa too much. I mean, if anything, it may impact one of the receivers during that game. But Tampa has so many weapons that they're able to move them around so much that they can probably negate that effect. And I mean, New Orleans really don't have many receivers to begin with, so I mean, I don't know. A corner really isn't gonna help anybody out.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely. Bucko, what say you?
I was going to say, it kind of sucks for us because we don't play Carolina until December. Both games, I think, are within 3 weeks. By then, they'll be nice and oiled up, running, Gilmore be caught up to game speed if healthy. I don't know if J.C. Horn is able to return or if he's done for the year. I don't know what the status with him is, but they get those guys nice and oiled up. If it does work, they could, cause some problems for us, playoff seeding and things of that nature. But I think it's a problem next year and beyond more so than it is for this year.
Yeah, Cody and I were talking about how our offensive personnel, no matter what the defense looks like, no matter how pretty it's painted, we still pretty much match anyone. Ain't that right, Cody?
Yeah, yeah. I don't think for us, pick your poison. I mean, you can put them on whoever you want. We've got 3 number 1 wide receivers, and Gronk will probably by then, but. A team like New Orleans and Atlanta, I think it could affect. Atlanta's got Ridley, and they're not great, after Ridley. So, they maybe put him on Ridley. And then New Orleans, assuming Michael Thomas is back, they put him on them. And it can matter. They've got a great pass rush. If you got a corner that can latch on for another second, half a second, that's potentially a difference in pressures or sacks. So, but versus us, no, I'm not too worried about it versus us. But it could impact the other games. I mean, he's a good player. If he's healthy. He's a good player. You want to have good players if he's healthy. But I think he's being a little he's 31, coming off injuries, and he's asking for an awful lot of money. So I'm not sure how that part of it's going to work out for him. But on the field, if he's healthy, he's definitely one of the better cornerbacks. So he'll help. He's got to help.
I'm not paying his ass $15 million. I don't care, even if we had it. But yeah, like you said. Calvin Ridley has been a very big disappointment for me this year. I actually had the unfortunate pleasure of him falling right to me and drafted him, and he hadn't really done much. So, yeah, Gilmore could take a guy like that out, but not our guys. No, sir.
So now they got C.J. Henderson, Dante Jackson, currently starting corners with Jeremy Chin and Sean Chandler, and then A.J. Boy in the slot with Rashawn Melvin as well. So Stefan Gilmore will join that. And then, as we said, J.C. Horn, who knows, that looked like a bad injury. Right now they say it's a bad injury. But I agree with Steven and you guys. It won't really affect the Bucs. Other teams, maybe if they, Atlanta, well, we'll see if Cordero Patterson keeps heating up. I mean, he's had a big 3 games in fantasy football. So if he continues to do good, and even if they put him on Ridley, maybe that'll open up lanes for CPAT. You never know if he could keep up that consistency, though. Then the Saints, all they got is they're a one-trick pony with Michael Thomas, and when Slants McGee's down, we see them. They're not even able to throw 300 yards a game right now. It's a very slim offense over there. So Gilmore, a team like Carolina, could really lock them down. Donnie says Carolina has an amazing secondary. Yeah, on paper it looks really, really nice, including when J.C. Horn's back. But Bucco's hating on C.J. Henderson.
That guy sucks, bro. I mean, he's fast, but he sucks. He's Vernon Hargreaves. He's not, just because you take him in the first round doesn't mean he's good. I watched him in Jacksonville and I watched him in Florida. He's not what you think he is. Just because he got taken in the first round is not any reason to start capping him. But I did want to bring up a point regarding that Carolina defense. Yeah, for the first 3 games against possibly the 3 worst quarterbacks in football, they looked really good. Against Dallas, they looked not so good. So let's see as they get into the meat of their schedule. Let's see. They got a Philly team who's really not that good. If they really are what people are saying they are, this elite defense, they should shut them down. But I guess that this week will be another test for them. I'm not fully sold on them yet, even though I do like what they're doing and what they're building. I'm not ready to call them an elite secondary or even an elite defense. Brian Burns is elite. Jeremy Chin is pretty close to elite, but everybody else, I don't know. But that you guys can crown them. I'm not going to.
I think they're ranked like number 3 overall, and they're not a top 3 defense. When I say they're good, I mean the defensive line. They got the edge. Shaq, what's his name? He's pretty good.
Well, so Shaq Thompson's the will linebacker. Yeah. They got Brian Burns, who's a beast.
They've got a good pass rush. And on paper, when Horn gets back, Horn I think is going to be a dog. He was one of my favorite players in the draft. The little bit we've seen him this year, he looked good. So, but are they top 3? No, probably not. I think their opponents had a lot to do with that. But their defense on the rise. They're coming up. They're getting some pieces. Like I said, I think they're 2 years out of, and that's depending on Darnold. Of seriously continuing. So I think they're a little overrated right now. But I mean, they're pretty good. Not top 3 though, in my opinion.
I'm with you.
I agree. They're not top 3 or anywhere near that for now, at least. I do like Derek Brown and Brian Burns in particular on that defense alongside J.C. Horn. Everyone else, we'll see what happens. But Burns could get after the quarterback, and Derek Brown, he's just a big boy. Ever since he came from Auburn, I remember watching him in the trenches at Auburn. He just clogged holes. He's doing the same thing in Carolina. Steven, before we move on quick, is Carolina a fantasy defense worth owning for the long haul, or would you, keep him on the waiver wire and only pick him up for favorable matchups?
I'd probably only go for favorable matchups. I mean, I like the pluses are that they can generate pressure, they can get some turnovers, which you always like. But as you saw versus Dallas, they are exploitable.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think that's a mutual consensus here. I'm looking forward to see what they do against our offense because Dallas is really good. Our offense is really good. So I think they're going to continue to take step back against bigger offense. And Donnie says Vernon Hargreaves is doo-doo. Well, obviously he sucked ass. I mean,
no shit.
Any blind squirrel knew that one,
That guy sucks, bro. And I'm telling you, I'm not trying to dump on C.J. Henderson. I know a lot of you, because I'm a Florida State guy, I just think it's Gator hate. But no, I actually watched the guy play, man. And other than speed, he really is not good at all. When you're that fast and you still get burnt, that's a fucking worrisome thing. So y'all watch him. Y'all see. I'm not crazy.
Yeah, I mean, and there's a reason why they traded him, I guess. But then again, Urban Myers, so you never know the true reason. And maybe he was flirting with the girl that Urban was out with that night. You never know what the hell could have ended up happening there. But Uncle Herb's down bad right now, so I'll let him be for for now. But Donnie's pumping him in right now, fellas. Is there any target players we should trade for by the trade deadline? I think he's talking about the Bucs. If there's anyone else they should be targeting, perhaps. Fellas, does anyone come to mind? To me, I think Light and BA are always looking to upgrade. There's a couple guys that could make sense. Will they do it? Who knows? Obviously, if we didn't give up 6 for Gilmore today, that tells me we're probably not looking to actively trade too much at this time. At least draft capital, maybe players that haven't proven a lot yet to this point. Everyone's saying we should trade Rojo, we should trade OJ Howard. Well, every other GM is watching the same thing we are to this point this year, so we really couldn't get value back for them anyways to that point. So I don't really see the Bucs having any pieces to move at this point. If they weren't willing to give up a 6 for Stefan Gilmore, I don't really think of any players off the top of my head that they might be willing to give up a 6th round pick for at that point or above that. And perhaps, like I said, Rojo and OJ Howard probably are 2 biggest trade pieces. Justin Watson, we have room to move a receiver. My only logical trade option off the top of my head at this point, I've been saying it a little bit now, perhaps Justin Watson, Keyshawn Vaughn for Marlon Mack. If the Colts would be able to do something like that, that's what I could think of right now. Bucko or Cody, you guys have any trade destinations or targets that come to your mind?
No, I mean, it's going to come down to money. The guys that are available usually at the end of their contracts, we can get some veterans that are at the end of their guaranteed money where they have very small amount of money that we are committed to for them for half a season. I could see us going after something like that, but nothing big, nothing major because we don't have the money. I don't think it's that we weren't willing to give up any draft capital. It's that we don't have the funds to pay the remainder of that dude's contract. So we weren't in the running when it became a trade scenario for Gilmore. It was only, we get him on the phone and convince him to take, a couple mil, 3.3 million or something like that and get a Super Bowl ring. That was our only shot. And, I'm not saying no to any trades, but I can't think of any player that's been rumored on the block that would be a fit here that'd be worth even kicking the tires on other than Marlon Mack. Yeah,
Cody, what say you?
I wouldn't mind the Marlon Mack thing, but other than that, like barring another injury or something, it's money and, we've got Sherman now and it sounds like Dean's going to be back. SMB hopefully soon. Carlton hopefully soon. Got Pierre Desir. Like, it seems to me like we're probably set. They'd probably like to have another guy, but you can, like Bucko was saying, you can trade a draft pick for a player, but if you don't have the, 8, 9, however many millions of dollars to pay him, it doesn't matter. And, I don't know who else we could restructure. We restructured Mike. We restructured Marpet. That's like the only 2 big, long contracts we had where we could really generate, big money, like millions at a time. And no, I don't think so. I think any money we have left is just for desperation. Nothing big. No, I don't see anything big. Maybe, someone else goes down, then practice squad type guys. But no, I don't see any trades.
Yeah, I'm in agreement with you guys. As we have more questions pouring in, I want to get Steven's take on something that happened this week quick. The team we're playing, obviously, the Miami Dolphins, they did make a trade this week. They traded their punt returner and wide receiver depth Jakeem Grant to the Chicago Bears for a future 6th-round pick in 2023, I believe. Do you think that's the last trade that the Dolphins make, perhaps? And how does Jakeem Grant's departure affect the current state of the Dolphins?
So, I mean, basically after that loss on Sunday, it was like the things that kind of reached a breaking point in Miami. And I think that was one of the, his trade was the first kind of message to the team. I mean, he's been a longtime veteran. He's been there, I believe, 6 or 7 years now, handled the punt return, kick return duties, been like a 4th receiver for the team. And it's just every time he's got an opportunity, especially this year, he either fumbles, he drops passes, he fumbled a punt on Sunday. And I think it was just basically a message to the team that, you need to step it up or you're gone. And in terms of the roster, I think we're going to see either Noah Igbo or possibly Jalen Waddle taking back kicks and punts. The Dolphins have activated Preston Wilson off of IR. I believe they're going to want to get a good look at him and see if there's anything left in that tank. Because, I mean, like when he has been active, he looks like a difference maker on that offense. The only other thing I could see is maybe some more involvement for Albert Wilson in there.
Yeah, I mean, Miami does have some names like Albert Wilson. They drafted Waddle. I'd be interested to see Waddle return, and I think that kid has a lot of excitement. I think that Waddle is going to be a nice player. I know he scored week 1. I don't think he's done too much since then, but his potential's limitless. And I know Will Fuller's out again. He just got placed on IR today, so that might open the door for Waddle more. Do you say even?
Waddle has a pretty set role in this offense. I'm not quite sure what happened last week. He had three targets, 3 catches in the first quarter, and didn't see a target the rest of the game. But I mean, the previous week he had, I believe, 11 or 12 catches. He's been seeing close to 10 targets every single week. I mean, he has a place firmly in this offense. I see, if anything, Albert Wilson filling that Jakeem Grant role.
Yeah, Albert Wilson, we haven't heard his name buzzing around too much, but I think that's a good guy to fill that role too. He's a crafty veteran who could do just that. And before we move on to some fantasy players to look out for in this upcoming Sunday's game, we got a question from Donnie again. Donnie, our man, thanks for keeping us busy and often tonight. He says, what about trading Tyler Johnson? He's worth a whole lot, so I'm not laughing at that idea. I'm laughing because Bucko said this yesterday as well. Everything is coming to fruition that's been brought up tonight so far by Donnie. We have talked about it before. Bucko, you mentioned that we could probably get a lot for Tyler Johnson last night.
Yeah, I mean, we were talking Stefan Gilmore. At this point, we were talking trade, obviously. And, we were talking about what guys would garner a player like that. And while Tyler Johnson is our 5th best receiver, if he's on New England's roster right now, he's their best receiver, in my opinion. He's better than Jacoby Myers. He's better than whoever else they got over there. What's his name? Nelson Aguilar. I really think Tyler Johnson is some of the best hands in the NFL. He's got a very team-friendly contract for the next 2 years. I felt like if we had to give up a piece to get a guy like Gilmore, that would be, a big bargaining chip. But I'm not trading him just to trade him. It's got to be for something that's really a vital piece to, get this second championship. Tyler Johnson is our insurance policy if we're not able to re-sign Godwin. So I'm not in a rush to get rid of him by any means at all.
I would say, because I agree with you. I mean, it's mainly been his potential so far. We haven't seen him on the field a lot, so it's, how much does another team view his potential? But we're not paying him much. So while his value might be more, like for what we're paying him, say we traded him for a player, the player that might help is probably making 4 or 5 times as much as he's making. So we just, money wise, we literally could not trade him for anything that might be worth it. And Godwin and Evans both have had hamstring issues, especially Evans. There's a good chance that he's going to have an uptick in playing time at some point this season. I hope not. I hope we keep Romaine 3, but I'd much rather keep him. And AB and Godwin are both free agents. There's nothing saying we get either of them back.
Right.
So I wouldn't be big on trading him. Just if we had money and like we had talked about the Stefan Gilmore trade, if that was something, trade him and we could make that work, I probably would have done that just because we're hurting at corner. But since that's a done deal, no, I don't see a scenario where that would work.
Yeah, and I'm really interested to see what happens because we all know it feels like Justin Watson will be the odd man out when he returns from injury for the Bucs. But you do know, or at least I feel like if we were to put Justin Watson on the practice squad, he'd get claimed right away, perhaps by another team in need of a wide receiver. So I'm really in favor of trying. I don't know his value. He might not be worth too much, but packaging him up with something, if anything, that's my preferred route to go because he comes back soon. Then we're out of luck. Tyler Johnson could bring in something. But yeah, things, if we are looking, I want a ring. I want to go going for 2. I want to go for 2, but a lot of wide receivers get hurt, and you got Godwin up in the air. You got AB up in the air for next year. Obviously, Gronk's a free agent again next year. OJ Howard's probably gone next year. So you got a lot of guys on their way out next year. You might need a guy like Tyler Johnson to play a bigger role next year. But at the same time, if he could get you the chip that you think puts you over the edge, it'd be hard to say no. So we'll see what happens, as we do have Justin Watson on the way back as well. And fellas, we're going to get into more Bucs Dolphins talk here about the big matchup Sunday, the Battle of the Sunshine State. You're listening to the Buccaneers podcast. We're joined by Bankster DFS writer Stephen Trosch, and he's also Arm Chair Quarterbacks contributor. We got a comment again from Donnie. Donnie keeps cranking him, guys. This is awesome, Donnie. We appreciate it. He goes, the way we are playing right now, this game could go anyway. Remember, it's the NFL. Any given Sunday. He's looking out. It is any given Sunday. Anything could happen. I mean, Bucko beat my fantasy team last week, so that's a perfect example of
that wasn't an outlier, sir. That was a guarantee. But go ahead.
Hey, you hurt both my tight ends. We'll circle back to you. We're gonna come back in a couple or later on in the year, maybe for a rerun. But speaking of fantasy, players to look out for, perhaps we're gonna have Steven name a Miami guy or two he likes this weekend, and we're all gonna name a Bucks guy we like for this weekend's matchup. We'll start with Cody, make our way to Bucko, then me, and end with Steven with the Dolphins. Cody, who do you like fantasy wise for the Bucks this weekend? If you could pick one guy or the defense, kicker, it doesn't matter, offensive guy, etc. Who you picking in fantasy and why?
I feel like AB is going to have a big game. He had that, it turned out not to be a big deal, but at the time it was a crucial touchdown drop late in the game. He's looked special this year. I predict AB most any game. I think at any time he can go off, and I don't know, just a gut feeling more than anything. I think he wants to make up for that drop touchdown, and I expect a big game from AB.
Yeah, Cody's got AB going off, which should be great for me. I'm in 7 fantasy leagues, and I have AB in 6 of them, so I really hope he goes off because that'd be incredible. Bucko, are you on the AB train for Tampa, or are you going with their defense, kicker, or who you going with on offense?
I'm going with Leonard Fournette. I think, shout out to Byron Leftwich and BA with their game plan last week, and I think they're going to be similar this week, that we have got to control clock. We've got to keep our defense off the field, even against Jacoby Brissett and a young, unproven wide receiver group. We still need to limit the snaps defensively because we got a lot of guys that don't really know what they're doing out there right now. So I think we're going to see a lot of more running plays from Leonard. I want to see at least 20 carries with him, and 20 carries should get me close to 100, and it should get a tutty as well. So give me Leonard as my DFS guy for the Bucks.
We got AB, we got Lenny F, we got a comment. Donnie's going with their defense. He's guessing 19 points out of our defense. Donnie, the thing with that is, and I want to agree with you after we look good. Oh, Steven's saying we're going to score more than that. He's pointing the up arrow. Hell, that'd be incredible. The only thing is, given the current nature of our secondary, you just never know. You never know. They weren't great to begin the year, and now they're banged up even more, although I think Sherman's going to continue to get better. I was impressed with what I've seen out of Pierre Desir last week. He looked impressive, too. In the I think he played 43 or 49, I forget which number, but he played in that ballpark percentage-wise of snaps, and he almost had a pick 6 to the house, which would have been a big moment of the game. And honestly, he looked pretty sharp. I was probably overexcited about getting Pierre Desir. He hasn't been good in a couple of years. He did have a 3-interception game with the Jets last season, so he could still make plays. I was excited when we added him. He looked pretty good last week, so I think our defense has a chance to step up this week. But then again, Bucks against scrambling quarterbacks, that's another thing. Jacoby could run a little bit. I'm interested to see how he could do out of the pocket and whatnot. I think our defense, we could get a touchdown on either a pick 6 or strip sack fumble. I think Shaq Barrett continues to stay hot. JTS continues to stay hot. Although I'm not going to go with their defense, I'm going to change it up a little bit. Lunny, we had a running back, we had a wide receiver going. I'm going with another wide receiver. It felt a little odd, not that he had a bad game last week, but Chris Godwin, you just didn't really hear his name like you usually hear Chris Godwin's. I'm going with Chris Godwin this week. He found his way into the end zone the first 3 weeks of the year. Week 4, he took a break from the end zone. I think he does ultimately return to the end zone in week 5. It's hard not to go with Penn Stater as well, as he just catches a lot of passes, and he gets a lot of targets per game usually. Had a slight drop issue in one game of the playoffs last year, which he overcame quickly. I'm going with Chris Godwin, and he looked pretty good running the ball on his running touchdown too. He had a nice cutback, so maybe there is a couple more times this season where he's put in to run at the goal line. You never know if he cheats. He'll 1 or 2 more rushing touchdowns along the way as a fantasy owner. So look out for Chris Godwin. So far we got AB, Lenny F, Bucks D with our man Donnie, and now we got Chris Godwin. Steven, on the Miami side of things, who you picking, who you liking, who you going with? You might not pick anyone, but you got to pick somebody on this show.
No, I mean the only there's only 2 real viable fantasy options on Miami right now, and that's Jalen Waddle and Mike Gesicki. I mean, if I had to go one this week, it's going to be Waddle, just because he has that nice PPR floor. He is incredibly explosive. I mean, he hasn't really broken a big one yet, but every time he's touched the ball, he looks explosive. He looks like impossible to take down. I think it's just a matter of time. And I like I said before, like Miami's going to be playing from way down this week. They are a very pass heavy team, and I think Waddle could be in for a big game.
So is this reverse psychology from you, this mindset of getting – because I know last week you said you were confident in their win over the Colts, and the opposite outcome happened there. So are you saying that they're going to get gassed up this week, just hoping that the football gods give a couple bounces Miami's way, Myles Gaskin shakes off the big screen, or do you actually think this is going to be as big as a blowout as the spread might indicate?
I don't know if the score will indicate it's going to be a massive blowout, but at no point in this game do I expect Miami to be competitive. I think it's going to kind of go like
It shouldn't be. You're right. Yeah.
I mean, we played Buffalo week 2. It was about 21-0 after the third quarter, and at no point did I have any hope that Miami was even close to being in that game.
And real quick, I want to circle back to 2 things with Tone. You were saying scrambling quarterback. I think that's a bit generous with Jacoby Brissett. I think my fat ass might be a little bit faster than him, but he does evade pressure well. I'll give him that. But he is not a scrambler, and I would have bet any amount of money you were going to go with your hometown guy Cameron Brate as your fantasy guy. You let me down a little bit.
I bet him to win, or not to win. Jeez, I bet him to score a touchdown last week, and he broke my heart a little bit with that one. Obviously, no one got into the end zone, but I was hoping that he, no tight end got in the end zone, but his odds are pretty good. He had a little worse or more favorable betting odds, as you might say, than OJ Howard. So my eyes lit up a little bit. I was hoping he was able to wiggle in, but he wasn't. I was going to go with him today, but for that reason, I don't know. But, hey, I know Jacoby ain't great, but on the year he does have 16 carries for 60 yards and a touchdown. That ain't terrible. Not great, but that ain't terrible. His best rushing year he ever had was 63 carries for 260 yards and 4 touchdowns. So I would put him in not extreme scrambler range, probably towards the lower spectrum of scrambler, but you can still move around a little bit. Yeah, the Colts kept him pretty entrapped, though. I know Darius Leonard was barking at him a couple times. Don't try that here. Don't try that scrambling stuff here. So I think Devin White's going to be amped. We got a comment now from Bankster DFS. Tampa's one defensive weakness is against the slot. Love the Waddle play.
Absolutely.
Any Bucko, Cody, you guys got anything on that? Steven recommended Waddle. He's got an endorsement from his write-in fantasy place, Bankster. Do you guys agree?
Yeah. I'm worried about Jalen Waddle's speed, his yak ability, and who we have covered him. You saw what shifty wide receivers do to us. I mean, don't put Waddle in Cooper Kupp's class just yet. Don't beat me up for that. But that type of guy, that shifty, real quick guy, gives us fucking fits. And if Jacoby Brissett is given the time to get him on those wheel routes and get him on those double moves, he can cause us some problems, especially from the slot. Absolutely.
I'm mildly worried about every quarterback and wide receiver right now, to be honest. Our defenses look terrible. Yeah. It could be a much lesser wide receiver than Waddle. I could definitely see him having a big game. 100 yards, touchdown. That wouldn't shock me at all. Yeah.
Yeah, Steven, you got some endorsements behind your pick. I'm going to go 4 for 4. I think that's a good move. As Cody said, a lot of wide receivers would be decent picks right now against the Bucks. But let's hope that changes soon. Let's hope that potentially a couple weeks from now we're a little more healed up. Hopefully, knock on wood. Hopefully, Sherman and Desir grow into their own shell. Hopefully, your pass rush could keep the pressure on like they did last week. Although Mac Jones did look pretty good, so yeah, you never know. Any opposing quarterback or wide receiver could look good against us right now. Our man Donnie's hopping out. Great job, guys. Got to go to work. Go Bucks. Of course,
All
Donnie.
right, Donnie, be good, man.
Yeah, be good. Be safe at work. Go Bucks, hopefully. And he predicts 27-3. Wow.
That's kind of a beatdown. I don't think we're not holding teams to 3 points. We're not there yet, Donnie.
I will say, when I looked into this matchup, what we're really bad on defense at, which is the stopping the pass. Miami's I think like 31st and actually passing. And this is not a good matchup for Miami. Again, I could see Waddle or one of the receivers having a good game, but on paper. Again, I don't agree with 3 points. This defense has given me no reason to think we can hold anybody to 3 points, but this isn't a good matchup for Miami, and it should be a blowout for sure.
Well, while we're on the topic, let's do score predictions. Steven, we'll start with you. You feeling the 27-3-ish type, or you got something different? I'm going to predict yours. You're going to say 200-0 Bucks, the way you've been talking this show. Let's see it.
No, I mean I think the Dolphins will definitely score maybe one touchdown, but I'm still it's still going to be an easy Tampa win. I'm so used to Tom Brady beating us twice a year. It's just
how dare you?
It's habit by now. No, but I'm thinking 28-10 Tampa.
28-10 says Steven. Yep, he said Tampa. You guys heard it. Tampa 28-10. We're gonna wipe away the mistake team that was mentioned. No, I could see why. You get used to Brady playing you so much that you get tired of it. Bucko, 28-10. You think that's realistic, or you got something different?
It's close. I think Miami scores a little bit more. I'm actually right there with them on the one touchdown, but I think that they'll drive enough where they'll also add 3 field goals to it. I got it 30-16 Tampa.
30-16. So Steven's got 28-10 Tampa. Bucko 30-16 Tampa. What say you, Cody?
I'm right between both of them. I think they score 1 touchdown, 2 field goals. In Tampa, after our last offensive performance, I think they got something to prove. I'm thinking like 34-13-ish.
34-13. Wow, I feel like I'm gonna let you guys down here. Like, I've been the past couple of not against the Rams. I predicted a win against the Rams. Fandom and me, maybe not. Then I predicted a decent win against the Patriots. I'm going to predict actually a closer game here. I think the Bucks still do win, but I think I'm going with 32-23 Tampa. I think we get a 9-point victory.
I can see that too. Yeah.
I think that the Bucks do look good at points and times in this game, but I think you still see sloppiness here and there. I think Miami sneaks around. I think they do some trick plays. We were a little exploited by trick plays last week against New England with Jacoby Brissett throwing the football against us. So we are the defending champs. We have seen teams bring out the most against us, open their playbook the most against us. So I think that Miami's really going to open up their playbook here. Perhaps it is the last week of Jacoby Brissett starting. I heard maybe Tua comes back the following week. So, he's going to want to play hard as well. And you never know. I think Miami scores a late touchdown to backdoor cover. Vegas always seems to know a thing or two some of the time. The spread's sitting right at 10. I got a backdoor cover at a 9-point a 9-point win for Tampa, 32-23. We'll see what happens. So we all got the Bucks. That makes me a little nervous, as always, when everyone's always on a team. But one more time, Steven, 28-10 Tampa. Bucko, 30-16 Tampa. Cody, 34-13 Tampa. Tones, 32-23 Tampa. Now we're going to 2 more talking points here before we bounce out, fellas. You guys are listening to the Buccaneers Dolphins preview pod. Potential defensive players to look out for from each side of the ball now. Bucko, we'll start with you on this one. Who's one Bucks defender that you think steps up this week?
I'm going to go with my guy Edwards, Mr. Steady Eddie. I don't know why he's only getting about 32% of the snap counts right now, especially with the depletion of our secondary. He can fill in as a slot corner. You can move him around at safety as well. Excuse me. I'm going to go with my guy Edwards.
Bucko's got Edwards, and he could move around, that's for sure. With the depleted secondary, we could see him in different packages. We could see him at safety. We could see him at slot corner. You never know. Cody's been pushing for the slot corner idea. Cody, I know you're high on Edwards. Are you going to stick with Edwards, or are you going with someone else?
No, Devin White needs to have his breakout game. I feel like I picked him a couple of times, but eventually I've got to be right. Like, this dude has not had one of his signature splash play games. So, but the guy I personally am looking forward to watching is JTS again. He looked pretty good versus the Patriots. So I'm not sure if JPP's out. I don't think they've announced that, but either way, I would imagine the Rick gets a lot of snaps. So I'm looking forward to watching him rush the passer again. And Brissett's a big dude, just because you get your hands on him, you got to get him on the ground. He's a pretty big dude, fairly mobile. So, the pass rush is going to be fun to watch. But I think Devin White, I think he finally – some tackles for loss, sack, interception, something. And a bunch of tackles, obviously. I'm sure he'll have a bunch of tackles.
So we got Devin White. We got Mike Edwards. Steven, we'll jump to you at Miami now before we end with my Tampa pick. Who you looking out for on the Dolphins side of the ball? Is it going to be – their first-round rookie edge rush, or is it going to be someone else?
I'm definitely looking for a big game out of Jalen Phillips at some point. I don't think it's going to be this week. Miami's pass rush is still a little bit on the weak side. There's still some improvement to do there. I'm honestly, the main thing whenever I watch this team, it's hard to not watch Xavier Howard play. He is just such a fluid cornerback, one of the best in the league, and just an incredibly opportunistic corner. I mean, it's going to be real interesting to see if he sticks with Evans or Godwin. I'm actually leaning Godwin a little bit there. I think they're going to put Byron on Mike Evans. But no, I think whoever Xavier's going to be on is going to have a hard day.
Yeah,
that is
damn good.
He's a stud. I enjoy watching him play. He's a stud. One of my favorite corners to watch, no doubt.
I'm happy for y'all to work it out with him and not end up trading him like you did Minka.
No.
That would have been just brutal because that guy can play, man.
Yeah, Dolphins have a good, two cornerback tandem going on over there as well. So it's going to be a hard day. Any wide receiver in the NFL that goes up against Xavier Howard, and he is one of the top cornerbacks, if not perhaps some people have him as a top corner in football. So that'll be interesting to see who he is on indeed, if it's Godwin, if it's Evans. So Steven went with cornerback, Cody went with linebacker, Bucko went with safety. I'm going with Vita Vea here. I'm hoping he gets to the quarterback. Actually, he's been really close a lot this year. He's disrupted so many damn plays. He's been our one consistent defender, I would say, of explosiveness, of actually doing his job right every play, busting into the backfield and so forth. So I'm looking forward to Vita Vea having a big game. I'm calling it now. I think Vita breaks into the sack stat sheet this week. I think he's going to get a sack, whether it's him chasing after Brissett or Brissett kind of creating the sack by himself. I think that Vita pushes his way across the stat sheet to get a sack. And he's been playing really damn good, and I just think he plays great this Sunday. I just think he comes out bullying people. I think he's going to bulldoze some dudes. So I'm looking forward to seeing Vita Vea.
I'm sorry, I didn't want to interrupt you, but I was so impressed with that dude Sunday. When I'm watching that full-grown man walk two full-grown men 10 yards in the backfield and try on come up underneath and nail the quarterback like that, dude, that guy's fucking impressive. It's amazing to watch him play.
Incredible. Sorry. And no. Hey, never be sorry. Button when needed. Cut my, I could get on tangents sometime. Cut me off like, the bartender says, cut him off. So
he's in the red.
Yeah, I'm in the red, Oh man. Anyways, that's our defensive players of the game, fellas. We're just gonna get into a little bit, Steven. We're gonna talk about what's going on in Miami quick, and then we're gonna get final thoughts on the game before we bounce out. We got about 15 minutes left. What the heck do you think is going on in Miami? I know Tua got hurt. You guys actually looked pretty competent week 1. You beat New England. Obviously, New England's not what they used to be, but it's still a nice little win. It's a nice competitive matchup. Jacoby's come in, although you guys kept it close against Vegas. It just really wasn't close against the Colts or against Buffalo, like you mentioned. Obviously, tough sledding this week. To me, the Dolphins' special teams is a glaring hole on their team. At least from what I watched against the Colts last week, it was not a good special teams performance. I don't know who your guys' special teams coordinator is, but he did not have his A game last week. Do you see Miami turning the Jets on at any point this season, or perhaps do you think there's some assistant coaches that should be worried about their job by the time Christmas comes around?
I mean, it's going to be way before Christmas. I mean, everybody on that staff is on notice, especially like just after the start of the season. One thing that Brian Flores mentioned in his post-game presser on Sunday, Chris Kaufman, he's on the 3 Yards Per Carry podcast. He noticed that Flores basically just described his game plan and his approach to the offense as methodical, as in just they don't want to make any mistakes. They want to just run their 3 yards in a cloud of dust, just execute their plays. But that only works when you have an identity on offense. And I mean, if someone here knows it, please tell me. But I mean, what do the Dolphins do well?
Well, even their explosions last year, you're just not seeing this year. Like Myles Gaskin came onto the scene last year. What the hell happened to him this year?
I mean, I think it's just a culmination of everything, not being able to get an offensive line together, having 2 offensive coordinators, and now the quarterback coach is getting input into plays. It's just it's a whole mess right there. It doesn't like you watch the games, you don't know what Miami's trying to accomplish, and it just leaves the defenses not really having to worry about any one thing and just kind of react. And
there's definitely not much creativity there. There's not much of an identity, like you said, but there is no offensive line. There is no semblance of a running game. There's not really any legitimate, like, real wide receiver threat. Waddle, I think, can be. Mike Gesicki, I think, is a hell of a tight end, but he's not even targeted nowhere near enough. So you couple all that with your quarterback injuries, the flux going back and forth. But my main problem with your offense is yards per attempt. I think you're near the bottom for the past 2 or 3 years. Mm-hmm. You don't even try to throw the ball 20 more yards down the field. It's like safeties and defenses are able to squat on all your underneath stuff, and it leads to problems.
I mean, and that's going back to Adam Gase. I mean, just the amount of memes I've seen about 3rd and 9 going throwing a screen pass. It's just it just blows my mind. And I mean, at the end of the Raiders game, they opened the offense up a little bit and they started having success downfield. And I mean, you can't do that if you have a terrible offensive line. So Brissett was getting time to throw. They the plays work. They have the talent on that offense. It's just going to be on a coaching staff to call it, be able to best utilize that those players. And then, I mean, we know Jacoby Brissett's not the answer. We just got to hope Tua comes back, stays healthy, and grows with the offense.
You're missing Fitzpatrick. That's what Miami needs right now is Fitzmagic. That's what you are missing. That was last year, right? He played like half the time, and Tua played like half. And they won a lot of games last year, too. So, I don't know. I mean,
would have been more. If Fitzpatrick stayed the whole year, it would have been more. We would have been an easy playoff team last year.
Yeah.
Cody,
I'm not big on Tua. I've never been big on Tua.
I actually wanted to ask you something because I like to pick your brain on offense in particular. Steven, I was watching the game last week. You actually just reminded me with what you just said. I was literally dumbfounded when I found out the Dolphins have 2 offensive coordinators and neither of those guys call the plays. So in theory, you got 3 offensive coaches, 2 offensive coordinators. It's like, what the hell's going on over there, Cody? What would you think if, Bucks had Byron Leftwich? Hey, by the way, I'm going to name someone random. Hey, by the way, Hines Ward, you're going to be an offensive coordinator too. And, oh, by the way, Clyde Christensen, we're going to actually name you play caller. What would you think of
Ooh.
that? That's just incompetence. Cody, I want to get your thoughts on that.
Well, I mean, sounds like too many Chiefs, not enough Indians for one. For two, he must not have faith in either of them, right? Like, I don't know. That's just that's never going to be a recipe for success, in my opinion. It needs to be one guy, and they have offensive assistants, like stuff like I get that, but it needs to be one guy calling plays. They can't be on the sideline like arguing about it, and one guy. You got to find you need an offensive identity. You got to find something, and when you've got 2-3 guys with input, I just don't see where you're ever going to find an identity. Without an identity, a clear goal, hey, we're trying to run the ball and play action pass or whatever it is, it's just not going to be successful. And then you factor in there on backup quarterbacks and everything else. That's just, I'm not surprised with how Miami's looked on offense for sure.
Yeah, and it's always hard because no matter how much the two offensive coordinators are on the same page and the play caller, everyone has a different mind. That's why, to me, you need one defensive coordinator, one special teams coordinator, one offense coordinator. If the head coach wants to do one of those and he's really good at it, fine, let the head coach do both, coach and coordinate. But other than that, there should be no sharing of titles amongst two people for one position. Obviously wide receivers coach, assistant D-line coach, all those things are needed, but that doesn't mean you need two lead men on the offense calling plays, two lead men on the defense calling plays, or a different play caller calling plays. To me, that just sounds like a headache, not only for the Miami offense, but for the Miami press, the Miami media, for everything. Who do you even ask offensively when you're trying to do post-game pressers, pre-game pressers? Do you need two staff? Do you need two groups at each offensive coordinator? So just kind of a whole mess and headache to me in general. So it'll be interesting this Sunday in the Sunshine State. We got about 8 minutes left, guys. We're going to do one big walk-off that we're going to think that will happen in Sunday's game, and then we're going to close this out. So one big walk-off that we think comes to fruition in the Sunshine State battle on Sunday. Bucko, if you're there, we'll start with you.
I'm sorry, guys. I lost my power cord. I had to go find it. My computer's about to die. So go. Let someone else go because I didn't hear the question.
All right, no worries. Cody, what's your one big walk-off for Sunday's game?
Our 3 starting wide receivers, Mike, maybe Godwin will catch a touchdown pass.
Well, I'd be interested if you parlayed that and that came true. That would be a nice little looking parlay, money line parlay right there. Because usually I always bet something for, touchdown score or whatnot. And when I look at the odds, it's usually like AB is like times 150 to 180 range. So if you bet 10 on AB and he scored a touchdown, you'd win $18, which is pretty good. And then Evans is usually like dead on even. So if you bet 10, you'd win 10 with Evans. And then Godwin usually sits 120 to 130. So I'm guessing if you put $10 in a parlay like that, it would probably pay, if they all happen to find their way into the end zone, it would pay a pretty penny. It'd pay like 80, 90, $100. It could get up there to that with those odds. So that's a nice thought there. I might have to consider before I leave Illinois. No, but for real, that'd be cool. I could see AB, Godwin, and Evans all scoring. They're all capable. The
weather was terrible in New England last weekend. Mike had a bad drop on a slant. Tom had some overthrows. Like, we just didn't look good on offense, and we've got way too much talent. They're going to prove a point this week, and I almost feel bad for Miami. I don't think it's going to be particularly pretty.
Yeah, and the drops that we had, we'll go ahead and attribute that to the weather because we're not a team that drops many balls. So,
right.
But my big walk-off, my big takeaway from the game is coincidentally close to dropping passes. We are not going to drop our interceptions this week, guys. We're going to catch them, and we're going to convert them into points, something we have failed to do very often this year.
All right, so we got 3 touchdowns from 3 different wide receivers. We got catching interceptions, turning them into points. I'm gonna go with backup tight ends on display. I think our backup tight ends come to play. I think between Howard and Bray, hopefully they could both have decent games, if not one for sure. But I'm going with, hey, have no fear. Our backup tight ends are here. I'm thinking Brayton Howard, get a couple of receptions, look good in the yardage stat sheet, hopefully show up the block and not false start that, not naming names. OJ Howard, last week, all you did was get us the false start. So hopefully they both come to play, as Cody said in the post-game pod. Chalk Braits drop up as weather condition. Hopefully we could get one of them going, though, because, Gronk's thing, it could still be a while for Gronk. He had a lot of injuries to overcome. He had fractures, broken ribs, punctured lung. We've seen how long that punctured lung kept Tyrod Taylor out last year, a couple weeks, 3-4 weeks it was, before returning to his backup role in LA. So who knows how long that could keep somebody out. So we'll see if our backup tight ends step up. I know even Cody McElroy got a couple targets last week, and we actually protected him on the practice squad this week. He was one of our 5 practice squad protectees, Cody McElroy, along with Rashard Robinson, amongst others. So, Steven, what's your one big takeaway on the Miami side of things? One big thing from this Sunday's game.
I think it's Sunday's really going to expose the secondary depth, or like the lack of secondary depth. Sorry, Byron and Xavier are 2 of the top cornerbacks in the league, but outside of that, we drafted Noah Igbo last year. He was a healthy scratch first couple weeks of the season, hasn't really shown much, and we have an undrafted rookie, second-year player Nick Needham out there, most likely going to be trying to cover Antonio Brown, and I do not think it's going to be pretty.
Wow, so yours kind of leans and piggybacks with Cody's. Then you're thinking their lack of secondary depth is going to ultimately catch up to them, especially with the Antonio Brown side of things. So I could see that coming to fruition. It seems like a lot of people are in store for AB having a big day, and now we'll give our log-offs here. And Steven, we'll start with you. Thanks so much for joining us tonight. Once again, where can the people follow you and your work on Twitter before you bounce out of here?
You can follow me on Twitter at Texas Trosch, Trosch, and then you can follow Bankster DFS on Twitter. $3.99 a week to sign up. Covers all sports. Well worth the money.
$3.99 a week, covers all sports. You heard it there: basketball, hockey, baseball, football, whatever you need. Steven, thanks for that. We'll definitely put that in our description when we get this out. We'll give that a look as well. We'll put all that information there. Cody, any last words for the pod tonight as we log off here?
No, I'm just looking for the offense to get back on track, and I'm really hoping the defensive line looks about like they did last week. They weren't great the first few games, and I know this is a backup quarterback, but last week it was versus a rookie. Like, let's do it consistently now. Whoever's in front of us, especially with the corner issues we're having, we need the defensive line to show up. So we'll be at the games. It's a little harder for me to pay attention to stuff like that live at the game, but I'm hoping that's what happens.
Yeah, Cody and I will be at the game. We'll actually be sitting next to each other there, so that'll be fun. I'm looking forward to that very much so. It'll be my second Bucs game this year, my first regular season game this year. I view the Titans-Bucs preseason game more so as, not more so as a party. The preseason game felt like a party. Saturday night, 7:30. It was lit. It was a good time. I got to see Kyle Trask play, so that was pretty fun. But I viewed that more so as a party atmosphere type. Yeah, it was a good time. Bucko, what say you? What's your last words?
Just glad to be back in the fold. Glad my kids didn't come up here jumping on the table and, interrupting me. It's good to get back with you guys. Thanks for rubbing it in that you'll be down there at the game together and I don't get to go. It's pretty nice of you. But y'all drink one for me, man. Let's go Bucks.
We'll drink only the finest of bourbon for you, my man.
The finest of bourbon. That's it. Yes.
And a Mike's Hard on the side as well.
I don't know who the hell drinks Mike's Hard. That's the second time you referenced that one.
I'm just pulling your leg, man. I know it's a bourbon. Wait, Stunna is trying to join, but it's the end of the episode. All of a sudden we got Stunna popping in, but maybe Stunna got the hour mixed up. Maybe it was we'll see. if he has any last Stunna, we're logging off here. You got any last words? I think.
Yeah, man. I'm glad that you guys got.
Go ahead.
Yeah, man. Just excited about Sunday, and the Dolphins is an old time rivalry. If you were been around in the creamsicle days, Miami was a big rivalry of ours. We used to play them every preseason, and we used to scrimmage them as well until we had a couple fisticuffs at the scrimmages, and they quit doing that. But this is an old time rivalry. Last time we played them here, we put Warren Sapp's name in the Ring of Honor, and I look forward to the Buccaneers getting that W and representing for the 813.
Hell yeah, and you'll be at the game as well, Stunna. Before we log off, you got your score prediction for Buccaneers Nation, Stunna?
I'm going to go with 31-17.
31-17. That's right along with Bucko said 30-16, I think. So 31-17, 30-16. Steven said 28-10. I said 32-23. Cody said 34-13. That's scary. 9-point victory is the lowest score prediction victory there. So always scares me when everyone's on one side. But Buck should handle this.
It'd be nice for us to cover a spread once this season, though. I would love for that to happen finally.
I feel like it's to the point in time where, eventually when you get such high expectations like the Chiefs, the spreads just turn ugly against you, and it gets hard to cover, man.
It depends on our defense.
Yeah.
The New England game went a lot like the Cowboys game where we completely dominated and outplayed a team and then barely won. So it really depends on our defense.
Exactly. It does depend on our defense, and we look forward to watching the Sunshine State. As we said, Cody will be there. I'll be there. Stunna will be there. Steven, thanks again. We're going to log off here. At least we got some words of wisdom from Stunna. Steven, thanks again for joining us this evening.
Yeah, thanks for having me on, guys. Have a good night.
See you later.
That was the Buccaneers, and that was Steven from Bankster DFS and from Arm Chair Quarterback Show, CBS affiliates. You could catch us on there on Sundays. On behalf of Bucko, Cody, Stunna, myself, it was us four making appearances tonight. And we also have ACADs. Couldn't make it tonight. On behalf of the Buccaneers, we're logging off. As always, go